What if the most powerful form of flirting is the one you never speak? Imagine walking into a room where no one says anything to you, yet within seconds someone notices you. Not because of what you said, but because of something far more primal. Something older than language itself. A glance that lingers just a second longer. A subtle shift in posture. A micro-expression that signals curiosity, confidence, or intrigue. Before a single word is exchanged, a conversation has already begun. And here is the unsettling truth. According to research in social psychology, up to 93% of communication is nonverbal. That means the way you move, the way you look, the way you occupy space, can determine attraction long before your personality ever gets a chance to speak. Most people obsess over what to say, while completely ignoring the silent signals that actually decide whether someone is interested in them or not. This is why so many people feel confused about attraction. They replay conversations in their head, wondering if they said the wrong thing, when in reality, the outcome was already decided before they even opened their mouth. The real question is not how to flirt better with words, but how to communicate desire, confidence, and emotional presence without relying on them at all. To understand this, we need to go deeper into how the human brain processes attraction. When you meet someone new, your brain does not start by analyzing their words. It scans for cues of safety, confidence, and emotional availability. This happens in milliseconds, driven by ancient neural systems rooted in survival. The amygdala, a part of the brain responsible for emotional processing, reacts to facial expressions and body language almost instantly. Before logic kicks in, your brain has already formed a feeling. This is why eye contact is so powerful. Studies have shown that prolonged eye contact increases feelings of attraction and emotional connection. In one famous experiment, two strangers were asked to maintain eye contact for several minutes. Many reported feeling an unexpected sense of intimacy, even vulnerability. The eyes are not just passive receivers of information. They are active signals of attention, intention, and interest. But eye contact alone is not enough. The way you hold it matters even more. Too short, and it signals disinterest. Too long without warmth, and it can feel threatening. The magic happens in the balance. A soft gaze combined with a slight smile creates a signal that is both confident and inviting. It tells the other person that you are present, aware, and emotionally open, without saying a single word. Another silent signal that shapes attraction is body orientation. Research in behavioral psychology shows that people naturally point their bodies toward those they are interested in. Even in group settings, subtle shifts in feet direction or torso angle can reveal who someone is drawn to. When your body is fully oriented toward someone, it communicates focus and engagement. When it is slightly angled away, it can create distance, even if your words say otherwise. Then there is the role of mirroring, one of the most powerful unconscious behaviors in human interaction. When two people are in sync, they begin to subtly copy each other's gestures, posture, and even breathing patterns. This is not imitation in a conscious sense. It is a sign that both nervous systems are aligning. Studies have found that people who mirror each other are more likely to feel connected and trust each other. What makes this fascinating is that you can initiate this process. By subtly aligning your posture or pace with the other person, you create a sense of familiarity. The brain interprets this as similarity, and similarity breeds attraction. It feels natural, effortless, almost invisible, yet its impact is profound. Now consider the role of space. The distance you maintain from someone sends a clear message about your level of comfort and interest. Standing too far can signal emotional distance. Standing too close too quickly can trigger discomfort. But gradually reducing that distance, in response to positive signals, creates a sense of intimacy that words cannot replicate. All of this leads to a powerful realization. Flirting is not about performing. It is not about clever lines or rehearsed strategies. It is about awareness. Awareness of your own body, your own energy, and the signals you are sending without even realizing it. Most people leak insecurity through subtle cues. Tension in their shoulders. Avoidance of eye contact. Nervous movements that betray their internal state. But when you become aware of these signals, you gain control over them. You begin to understand that attraction is less about impressing someone, and more about creating a feeling. A feeling of ease. A feeling of curiosity. A feeling that something interesting is unfolding, even in silence. And this is where the real shift begins. Because once you realize that words are not the main driver of attraction, you stop overthinking what to say. You start focusing on how to be. How to exist in a way that naturally draws people in. In the next part, we will go even deeper into the psychology of presence, and how your internal state shapes every nonverbal signal you send, often without you even knowing it. There is a moment that happens in every interaction, and most people never notice it. It is the moment before anything is said, before any gesture is made, before even eye contact fully locks in. It is the moment where your internal state quietly broadcasts itself to the other person. Not through words, but through something far more subtle. Something psychologists often describe as emotional contagion, the phenomenon where humans unconsciously absorb the emotional states of those around them. This is where silent flirting truly begins, not in what you do, but in what you feel. Because the uncomfortable truth is this. You cannot fake presence. You can fake a smile. You can fake confidence in your words. But your nervous system cannot lie. Studies in neuroscience show that humans are remarkably accurate at detecting authenticity through microsignals, tiny shifts in facial muscles, tone of breathing, and posture that occur beneath conscious awareness. These signals are processed faster than conscious thought, which is why someone can feel off even if everything they say sounds right. This explains why some people can say very little and still feel magnetic, while others say all the right things and feel forgettable. The difference is not in technique. It is in state. When you feel anxious, your body subtly contracts. Your shoulders tighten, your movements become less fluid, your eye contact becomes inconsistent. Even your breathing changes, becoming shallow and fast. These signals are picked up instantly. The other person may not consciously identify them, but they feel them. And the feeling they receive is tension. On the other hand, when you are calm, grounded, and genuinely curious, your body opens. Your movements slow down. Your gaze becomes steady. Your breathing deepens. These signals communicate safety. And safety is the foundation of attraction. Research from the field of interpersonal neurobiology shows that humans are wired to seek emotional regulation through others. When someone feels calm and present, their nervous system can actually help regulate the other person's state. This creates a subtle but powerful dynamic where being around you feels good, even if nothing extraordinary is being said. This is why the most effective form of flirting is not about trying to impress, but about creating a state that others want to step into. One of the most overlooked elements of this is pacing. People who are nervous tend to move and speak quickly, as if trying to fill silence or escape discomfort. But silence, when used correctly, is one of the most powerful tools in nonverbal communication. A brief pause after eye contact. A moment of stillness before responding. These small gaps create tension in the best possible way. They signal confidence, because you are not rushing to prove yourself. In fact, studies on perceived dominance and attractiveness consistently show that individuals who move more slowly and deliberately are often seen as more confident and more desirable. Not because they are trying harder, but because they appear more in control. Then there is the role of attention. In a world filled with distractions, genuine attention has become rare. When you give someone your full focus, without constantly scanning the environment or checking your phone, it creates a sense of importance. It tells them, without words, that they matter in that moment. This is deeply rooted in human psychology. Being seen and acknowledged activates reward centers in the brain, releasing dopamine, the same neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and motivation. This is why someone can feel drawn to you simply because of how you look at them, not because of anything you say. But attention alone is not enough. It must be paired with emotional neutrality. This might sound counterintuitive, but showing too much eagerness too quickly can actually reduce attraction. It creates pressure. It signals that you are seeking validation rather than offering an experience. The balance lies in being warm, but not needy. Interested, but not dependent. Present, but not overwhelming. Another key element is self-perception. The way you see yourself directly influences the signals you send. If you internally believe you are not attractive or not interesting, your body will reflect that belief in subtle ways. Your posture may shrink, your eye contact may weaken, your movements may become hesitant. But when you begin to shift your internal narrative, your external behavior changes automatically. This is not about arrogance or pretending to be someone you are not. It is about recognizing your own value and allowing that recognition to shape your presence. Psychologists often refer to this as embodied cognition, the idea that the mind and body are deeply interconnected. When you change your physical state, you influence your mental state, and vice versa. Standing taller, breathing deeper, and moving with intention can actually alter how confident you feel, which in turn changes how others perceive you. This creates a feedback loop. Your internal state shapes your external signals. Those signals influence how others respond to you. Their response then reinforces your internal state. And this is where silent flirting becomes powerful. Because it is not about controlling others. It is about mastering yourself. When you can regulate your own energy, maintain presence, and project calm confidence, you create an environment where attraction can naturally emerge. Without force. Without pressure. Without the need for perfect words. In the next part, we will explore specific nonverbal techniques that amplify attraction, including subtle gestures, timing, and the psychology of tension that makes interactions feel electric without a single line of dialogue. Attraction rarely happens in grand gestures. It lives in the smallest details, the kind most people overlook, yet the brain notices instantly. If presence is the foundation, then microsignals are the language. They are the tiny behaviors that transform a neutral interaction into something charged, something memorable. And the reason they work is simple. The human brain is wired to detect patterns, especially those that suggest interest, intention, or emotional shift. One of the most powerful of these signals is the controlled use of eye contact combined with timing. It is not just about looking at someone, but about how you enter and exit that gaze. When your eyes meet, holding that moment just slightly longer than socially expected creates tension. Not discomfort, but curiosity. It subtly asks a question without words. Then, breaking eye contact slowly, rather than abruptly, leaves a trace of that moment lingering in the other person's mind. This is not accidental. Studies on attention and memory show that moments of slight emotional tension are more likely to be remembered. The brain flags them as important. So when you create these small, charged pauses, you are essentially marking yourself as someone worth noticing. Then there is the role of the half smile, often misunderstood but incredibly effective. A full, constant smile can feel friendly but predictable. A subtle, shifting smile, one that appears briefly and then softens, creates intrigue. It suggests that your emotional state is not entirely predictable, and unpredictability, in small doses, increases attraction because it keeps the brain engaged. Another key signal is head movement. Slight tilts of the head during eye contact can signal openness and curiosity. It makes you appear more engaged and less rigid. Combined with a relaxed posture, it creates a sense of ease that invites the other person to feel comfortable. But perhaps one of the most underestimated tools is stillness. In a world where most people fidget, check their phones, or constantly adjust themselves, stillness stands out. When you can remain composed, with minimal unnecessary movement, it communicates control. It signals that you are not seeking approval or reacting impulsively. This kind of grounded presence often reads as confidence, even if you are not consciously trying to project it. Timing also plays a crucial role. Responding immediately to every moment can make an interaction feel rushed. Introducing slight delays, whether in your reactions or movements, creates rhythm. It gives space for anticipation to build. This is similar to how music works. Without pauses, there is no tension. Without tension, there is no emotional impact. Touch, when appropriate, is another powerful nonverbal cue, but it must be used with precision. The key is subtlety and context. A brief, light touch on the arm during a shared moment can create a spike of awareness. It shifts the interaction from purely social to slightly more personal. But the timing has to feel natural, never forced. The brain is highly sensitive to incongruence. If a gesture does not match the flow of the interaction, it creates discomfort instead of attraction. There is also something deeply influential about direction of attention. When you occasionally shift your focus away, not out of disinterest, but as a natural part of your awareness, it prevents the interaction from becoming too intense too quickly. It creates a push and pull dynamic. You are present, but not consumed. This balance is essential because it mirrors the natural rhythm of attraction itself. The push and pull dynamic is not about manipulation. It is about emotional pacing. Too much attention can feel overwhelming. Too little can feel disengaged. But alternating between moments of connection and moments of slight distance keeps the interaction alive. It gives the other person space to lean in. Another subtle but powerful signal is vocal tone, even when words are minimal. The way you say something simple can carry emotional weight. A slower, softer tone often feels more intimate, while a steady, grounded voice communicates confidence. Even small sounds, like a brief laugh or a quiet acknowledgement, can carry meaning when aligned with your body language. All of these signals work together to create something that feels almost invisible, yet deeply impactful. And what makes them so effective is that they bypass conscious analysis. The other person does not sit there thinking, they tilted their head, so I feel attracted. Instead, they experience a feeling. A sense that something about this interaction is different. This is the essence of silent flirting. It is not about tricks or techniques used in isolation. It is about coherence. When your eye contact, posture, timing, and internal state all align, the message becomes clear without needing to be spoken. And yet, there is one final layer that determines whether these signals create real attraction or fade into forgettable moments. It is not about what you do in a single interaction, but about the emotional imprint you leave behind. In the final part, we will explore how to create that lasting impression, the kind that lingers in someone's mind long after the interaction ends, even if very few words were ever exchanged. Long after a conversation ends, people rarely remember exact words. What they remember is how they felt. This is the final layer of silent flirting, and perhaps the most powerful. Because attraction does not live in the moment alone. It lives in memory. In the subtle emotional residue that lingers after you walk away. And if you understand how that imprint is created, you no longer need perfect timing or perfect lines. You simply need to shape the experience in a way the brain cannot easily forget. The human brain is not designed to remember everything. It filters aggressively, keeping only what feels emotionally significant. Research in cognitive psychology shows that emotionally charged moments are encoded more deeply into memory through the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine. This means that if an interaction creates even a small spike of emotional intensity, it becomes far more memorable than a long, neutral conversation. This is why brief, meaningful interactions often leave a stronger impression than extended, predictable ones. When something feels slightly unfinished, slightly unresolved, the brain keeps returning to it. Psychologists refer to this as the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency to remember incomplete experiences more vividly than completed ones. In the context of silent flirting, this means you do not need to say everything or reveal everything. In fact, doing less often creates more impact. A moment of eye contact that ends just before it becomes comfortable. A smile that fades before it fully settles. A presence that disappears just as it becomes familiar. These small interruptions create psychological tension, and tension creates memory. But tension alone is not enough. It must be paired with positive emotional tone. The goal is not to confuse or frustrate, but to create curiosity. A feeling that something meaningful almost happened, even if it was never fully defined. Another powerful factor is contrast. The brain pays attention to change. If an interaction shifts from neutral to slightly warm, from distant to briefly connected, that transition becomes noticeable. It stands out against the background of everyday interactions, which are often flat and predictable. This is why even a small moment of genuine attention can feel powerful. In a world where most interactions are distracted and surface level, being fully present for even a short time creates contrast. It signals rarity, and rarity increases perceived value. There is also the role of identity in memory. People are drawn to those who make them feel a certain way about themselves. If your presence makes someone feel seen, interesting, or slightly more confident, that feeling becomes associated with you. Over time, this association strengthens attraction, even if the interaction itself was brief. Neuroscience suggests that this process is linked to reward pathways in the brain. When someone experiences a positive emotional shift in your presence, their brain begins to associate you with that reward. This is not something they consciously analyze. It simply becomes a preference, a pull, a subtle desire to experience that feeling again. And this leads to a critical insight. Silent flirting is not about making someone like you. It is about creating an experience they want to return to. The way you end an interaction is just as important as how you begin it. Lingering too long can dilute the emotional intensity. Leaving at the right moment, when the interaction still feels alive, preserves that energy. It leaves the other person with a sense of continuation rather than closure. This is not about playing games. It is about understanding rhythm. Every meaningful interaction has a natural peak, a moment where the connection feels strongest. Recognizing that moment, and allowing it to remain slightly open, creates a lasting impression. Confidence plays a final role here, but not in the way most people think. It is not loud or exaggerated. It is quiet certainty. The kind that does not need to prove anything. When you are comfortable leaving without forcing an outcome, it signals that your value is not dependent on immediate validation. This kind of confidence is deeply attractive because it removes pressure. It allows the interaction to exist without expectation. And paradoxically, this often increases desire, because it creates space for the other person to invest emotionally. When all of these elements come together, presence, micro-signals, emotional pacing, and memory, flirting becomes something entirely different from what most people imagine. It is no longer about performance. It is about connection. Subtle, layered, and deeply human. And perhaps the most powerful realization of all is this. You do not need to become someone else to create attraction. You need to become more aware of what you are already communicating. Because even in silence, you are always saying something. The only question is whether you are doing it consciously.